The Florida Gators are going to be one of, if not the most important jobs that comes open in this cycle. How is that going to play out with the timing that goes along with it?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To this crossover, Locked On the Portal and Locked On Gators. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and operator of the Portal Podcast. I hope that you are ready for a lot of coaching change. Billy Napier just got fired, and he's probably not going to be the last one even this week, but that is a major job that's coming open. We're going to talk about the ramifications for the Gators, the timing of everybody they're going to try to look at, and how they impact everybody else, including recruits and portal as well. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if it wins, you can get $300 to use across the FanDuel app. To help me figure out everything that's going on, Mr. Brandon Olson, the Locked On Gators, who's probably happier than he should be, considering the Gators just fired their coach, but that tells you how much hell he's been through as a Florida fan the last few years. How you doing, Brandon?
Wonderful. I'm wonderful. My program's in better shape. Billy Napier got generational wealth. I'm happy for all of us. We won on every side.
There you go. There you go. So I'm just going to start off with the obvious question. With everything that's going on in college football in the offseason, you got first Wednesday is National Signing Day. Transfer portal is January 2nd through the 16th. Playoffs, coaching changes. How excited are you to know that there's so much turmoil and it's impossible to predict who the Gators are really going to be able to pursue realistically?
Yeah, it could suck. Not gonna lie. It could, honestly. Like, I don't know what the approach is going to be for a lot of these teams that do need to hire a head coach.
Sure.
Like I guess UCLA, no. Virginia Tech, no. Colorado State, no. They're not going to have to deal with those things. But Florida and Penn State fired their head coaches for one very specific reason, is that they do want to win a national championship. And with a lot of these schools, like, I could see Penn State taking a swing on someone because it's worked for them before. Like, James Franklin had 3 years of being a good head coach at Vanderbilt before Penn State opened up and before he took that job. Florida had gone for the group of 5 guys a few times now. I think they want to take the swing on a proven commodity like a Lane Kiffin, like a Marcus Freeman. But the thing is, one of the things that makes those guys so enticing is that they're good football coaches, right? And good football coaches, they're usually coaching late into the year. They're usually coaching in mid-late December, early January, whenever things shake out. So I think that makes it really tough because, like, we can talk about lists all we want for Florida, and Lane and Marcus Freeman are at the top of mine. It's those two. They're in a tier of their own. But then you talk about other names, like people talk about Kenny Dillingham. People kind of talk about Brent Key, Rhett Lashley. They're going to talk about all these names. And the thing is, those guys might be playing in the College World Playoff as well. And so I'm curious if teams are going to prioritize, let's have a head coach by signing day and make sure that we get our high school class solidified, or if they're going to go, well, let's get a coach that can do more immediately, kind of punt on high school recruiting that isn't like Florida's had recruits come out and say, I committed to a program, not a coach. I'm going to stay committed. Maybe you have a playoff caliber coach and you go, well, that's going to be his high school class, those kids. Anybody that pushed back to a later signing day and the transfer portal. And for the first year, that's what it's going to be, which is a risky move because you don't know who's going to be. You have like ideas of who's going to be in the transfer portal, but you don't really know. And high school, you got no idea if those kids are going to work out. Like, you could be the greatest coaches ever. You're going to have a bunch of very well-renowned high school players that don't pan out at all. There's so many factors that go into their development. It's a risky move. But is it one that teams are willing to make if it means that you get a better coach. Like Kurt Signetti wins everywhere he wants, has done it consistently with lesser talent than everyone. I could see teams seeing someone like that and going, okay, well, he could do it without elite talent for a year to be at least respectable. Let's give him that and let's bank on that. Let's just get a winner, which could be the argument. But again, that's a risk roster building wise. And a lot of elite kids are going to go, okay, well, I'd rather go to a coach I know rather than the actual, I committed to the program, not the coach. Because if you say that and you stick to it no matter what, and then they hire a dud, you're going to hate that decision, and you're probably going to be in that first transfer portal window.
Yeah, I respect the decision if Florida goes all in, make coaches, Kalen DeBoer, Marcus Freeman, whatever guy you want. I mean, is DeBoer leaving Bama? Chances are next to zero, but it doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. Fair enough. Same thing with a lot of other coaches. Let's just see where this shakes out. I'm curious, do you think Florida would have any interest in any offensive coordinators at the NFL level? Or is this just college? That's always the one that I don't know enough about the NFL to answer that for any school, but I'll let you figure that out.
I think they're going to stick with college. I think one of the biggest risks with taking an NFL guy right now is how frequently we see guys jump from college to the NFL at the slightest opportunity. I look at Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley had it made at Boston College. That man was not going to get fired at Boston College. He left to go join the Packers, to be their defensive coordinator. We see guys take promotions in terms of level of play from college to the NFL, but demotions in terms of job quality with head coach or job prestige with head coach to coordinator. So I don't know. I think the risk with that is that if you've been in the NFL, you don't really know what the recruiting world is like right now. Even if you were in college football 3 years ago, it's very different in that time. And so I think that's one of the biggest culture shocks that you're going to get is needing to deal with recruiting, the portal. I mean, fluffing boosters' egos so that you can get more money for kids and all that stuff. So I think that's the big risk with NFL guys. And also they just might not manipulate as well. College has more insane splits that you can run offensively. And in the NFL, they're not as used to that. They don't abuse those as much. I think there's less of a guarantee of success taking an NFL mind and bringing him to college than there used to be. And so I think that's a tough sell unless it's an alum of the school. If you can get like a Florida, if there's an OC in the NFL that went to Florida and you can get him to be your head coach, I think there's a lot of value in that. But outside of that, it's just as risky as getting a group of five guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of iffiness with the portal and NIL. The kids that are talking about that, Saban comment on that recently, he said, I'd rather go to the NFL. I can't really blame him either. I mean, he's a pretty stubborn guy. He doesn't like giving up control, and most coaches don't. So I totally get it. Before we go to the first break, when you think about all the top candidates, and we've both got our names, how much do you think it's a factor that coach that ends up at UF has definitive recruiting ties to the Sunshine State?
I think it should be vitally important.
I do too.
Yeah, I think it really should be. It's tough to go into some of these high schools in the state of Florida and try to sell it when you're going to walk in and they're going to go, who the hell is that guy? Like Brian Kelly walking in to recruit kids in Louisiana and everybody's like, family. Like, no one believes you. No one buys that. And if you're a fraud, people aren't going to want to come play for you.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Florida's an authentic place. It is what it is. And the people there are really passionate about all the opportunities that Florida has as a football power. So I get it. When we come back, we're going to talk more candidates. I have some thoughts on some guys that would probably be good and a few that have been kicked around. I'm like, yeah, I really don't see that. That is next here on this crossover edition, Locked On the Portal and Locked On Gators. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is well underway, and FanDuel has an offer for you. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if it hits, you can get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Point spreads, parlays, picking the AFC winner, whether or not you want to vote on your own MVP candidate, go for that. You can do just about anything you want with FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and to get started. We are also brought to you by Quo. One of the most important tools that makes a huge difference for any business is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected around the clock. Quo is the number one business phone system that streamlines your customer communication, works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. With Quo, you're going to be able to get everything you need. You're not going to have to worry about carrying out all the extra phones and all the other stuff. You're going to have an inbox with the new customer information right there for you whenever you need it. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Just go ahead and check it out. Go over there and you can get 20% off your first 6 months at Quo.com, Locked On College. That's Quo.com/Locked On College. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you once again for making this Locked On crossover edition of Gators and the Portal your first listen each and every day. And Brandon, speaking of first listen, the first couple of times I heard a few names associated with Florida, Penn State, possibly Florida State. By the time this airs, Lord only knows if that job's going to be open. Some of the names that get thrown around are crazy. I've even seen Brian Hartline's name mentioned with like Florida State and stuff. I'm like, he's a one-year coordinator. Not sure about that. Who's the craziest name you've heard associated with the Gators?
Hartline's up there for Florida fans wanting him. And I think it's insane. I'll say that. But I feel like I kind of get where
he can recruit Florida, but still.
Yeah. I think the thought is he can recruit receivers at Florida, which you have fun receivers. The quarterbacks want to come and throw the ball to them, and you get the quarterback, and the rest falls to it. But I am very opposed to a coach that needs to be a CEO type, not going to be an offensive play caller, not going to be a defensive play caller as a head coach, especially as a first-time head coach. I'm very opposed to that at the University of Florida. Like James Franklin, he's done that for a long time. He can say he's done that. He could prove he's done that. Matt Campbell, not a name that I'm talking about for Florida, but he's done that. His whole career, he's done that. He did that Toledo, Iowa State. He'll do that at his next spot too. So yeah, I think that Brian Hartline is one of the crazier ones. I've seen people bring up GJ Kinney from Texas State. I think he's just a really fun offense, and people want that after watching Billy Napier.
Understood.
Yeah, no, I get it if you're looking for fun. I'm looking for fun and wins. Crazy guy. Honestly, and I know that there's going to be people that hate this. I don't need it to be fun if you're winning football games. Like if you're winning football games and it's ugly and it's messy, but you're consistently winning, I'm fine with it. I'd prefer you be fun. Wins are wins, though. Like that's how I look at it.
Is there anything on the list that's just an X for you? You just put a big X by the name and you're done. Like, what is the biggest concern you have for a candidate to be off your own list?
Each one has a different thing. Dan Lanning, I took off right away. You're not going to be able to afford him. So I think that when I was talking about lists, or whenever I talk about lists, I try to be generally realistic with them. Dan Lanning, far too expensive. You're not going to get him. Lincoln Riley, I actually crossed off for two reasons. One being that he's far too expensive, and the other being that he sucks at his job. That was another one that I didn't want to have him on there. That just is what it is. I don't think he's very good. I think he's overrated. Flash is fine. But I care about winning, and I don't view him as a serious guy. Eli Drinkwitz, I took off my list just because from people I spoke to, they find it very unlikely that he leaves Missouri, unless it's for the NFL or like Bama. So I took him off my list for that. There weren't a lot of guys that I just looked at and went, no. Like I went through a very long list that included Pete Kwiatkowski from Texas, Joe Klanderman, the Kansas State DC. Like when I was getting my list ready, I was looking at everybody. There weren't many guys where I just looked at and I said that's a deal breaker. There's guys that I look at and I say not a huge fan of that, very concerning for me. But if I could see it, I could see it. Like with Jed Fish, one of the things that is a very big concern for me that people keep bringing him up because he's a Florida alum. Has he stayed at a spot long enough for us to say that we know he's going to work out?
He stays 2-3 years anywhere he goes, and that's it.
Yeah. I don't want to hire a coach for 2 or 3 years. I want to hire a coach to win, ideally, multiple national championships over a long period of time. So for me, like Jed Fish, that's a big concern for me. It's not something that eliminates him completely, but I do think right now you're at an interesting spot in a coaching cycle and an interesting spot in college football in general, where every coach has legitimate flaws and legitimate concerns. Even the guys that are viewed as the top still have legitimate flaws and legitimate concerns. It's just about finding the guy that has the highest ceiling with the lowest risk attached to it. And so for me, I basically, for every person, I was like, look, this is a red flag, but everybody's got them. It's just a matter of who I'm more confident in succeeding. Which is why I don't even have like a list in terms of numbered. I would just put them in tiers, and that's how I broke them up. I'm like, hey, anybody in this I kind of view relatively even with each other and relatively level. So that is how I broke it up.
Nothing wrong with that. Let's talk about that for a second. This is one of my fascinations with the college coaching search. Assistant coaches. Like Glenn Schumann at Georgia, there's really not much he hasn't seen. If I remember right, he was under Saban's staff at one point, and he's been like, if you've been under Kirby and Nick, probably not much you haven't seen, but he still hasn't been a head coach. How is he going to handle adversity? How is he going to handle a star player ending up on the front page of ESPN for the wrong reason? Those things you don't know. Do you think Florida would entertain any coordinator at any level?
I think there are a couple. Like I feel like everybody's going to talk about Will Stein. I feel like Oregon. Yeah, he's going to be the guy everyone talks about. I do think Brian Hartline would be way down the list, but generally on the list. Outside of that, and I think this might be one of those things where I try to cross people off is DCs that haven't been DCs for a long time. Like, Pete Kwiatkowski, Joe Klanderman, like they've been DCs for a long while. I can kind of look at that and say, we've got that proven. Glenn Schumann hasn't been a DC for a very long time. Those guys give me a lot of cause for concern. Any DC, and even to an extent, some defensive minded head coaches that have been head coaches.
There it is.
Give me a bit of a concern. Again, not off the list, doesn't hurt you a ton, but having your entire success relying on you hiring good offensive coordinators and doing that every 2 or 3 years, because if it's working,
they leave.
They're getting hired. Yeah. So having to do that every 2 or 3 years concerns me, especially with younger DCs, because you don't have this big assistant coaching pool of people that you know and have networked with for a long time. I think that when you look at guys like John Summerall, head coach, defensive minded, he's been coaching for a long time. He's got ties to just the coaching community. A lot of these guys know each other. He'll be able to get someone. Like Brent Key is not an offensive play caller at all. He's just like, let me handle the offensive line, have some fun with that, work with that. He's gonna still be able to find some guys, but not as often, not as easily as guys that are more experienced. And so I think that when we talk about younger guys like Glenn Schumann, like who's going to be Glenn Schumann's OC? who would he know to work with? Is this going to be a situation where Florida has to come in and say, hey, guy that we know, would you be interested in Florida, and not really being a Glenn Schumann guy? And I do think that matters with a lot of these hires. I think it's a big risk. And I think it's why you see teams not really go for the DC hires, because, I mean, we saw it with Will Muschamp.
Oh, my God, that offense was horrible.
Yeah, one of the best defensive minds that you're ever going to see, but offense was consistently terrible. Couldn't figure it out. It's a big concern. Whereas, if you're an offensive-minded head coach, your offensive system is there. Your offensive system is there. You'll be able to find defensive coordinators that can run respectable defenses as long as your offense stays the same. And so I think that's a big concern with defensive-minded coaches. And I think it's very valid, too. It's not like this boogeyman thing. It's very valid concern to have, because of how often we see these defensive-minded coaches get into head coaching roles. And every year we got to go, the defense is so good. If only the offense gave them something. And that never changes.
Kind of sounds like Florida right now, but that's another story.
It's what I spent the first 6 weeks of the season saying.
I'm sure the Florida defensive players support your theory. When we come back, we're going to talk about, speaking of players at Florida, concerns for guys hitting the portal. How do they remove that concern? That is next here on this crossover edition. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401k, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that could mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. If you want it to be concise, easy to find everything in one place, and making sure your day is a lot smoother, Monarch Money is going to help you a lot. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Brandon. Let's get it out of the way now. Do you want to go ahead and announce for him that DJ Lagway is definitely hitting the portal now that
Go ahead.
What do you want to do?
Go ahead. I'm fine with it. Honestly, there's and I'm not saying that to knock DJ at all. I still think he's incredibly physically talented. I still think he's got a very high ceiling. But go ahead. We're in a time where I'm not particularly tied to any players sticking around. It's the transfer portal time. There's guys that I obviously want to keep, right? Like Miles Graham, Jaden Ball, would die for those guys for around the third. But players that want to leave, they're going to leave, right? Like that's just, you're at the point in time now where, in the past 2 years alone, like back-to-back seasons, we saw a Florida Gator transfer out and go to Georgia. And then last year we saw a Florida Gator transfer out and go to LSU. We saw 2 Florida Gators last year transfer out and go to LSU. The time of loyalty, like now that's considered a great trait to have, because the time of loyalty is just dead. They don't care anymore. Which, hey, more power to you, right? But at the same time, if players leave, they leave. This is a conversation that we had all the time last year when we were talking about, you should fire Billy Napier. People would always say, well, but then you might lose DJ Lagway. Don't care. There's not a single player where I look at them and I say, I'll deal with this coach if it means keeping this player. Players are going to leave. And frankly, a good deal of them should. Especially depending on who the coach is. If I'm DJ Lagway, for example, and they hire, I don't know, Marcus Freeman. He hires an OC. I don't really care about the OC. I should leave. I should go to a place where I'm going to thrive. As a Florida Gators fan, I want the most talented players on my team at all times. But as a person, I also just want these kids to, find success, get to the league, have some fun, get generational wealth, go on with that. And sometimes that's not going to be at Florida. As long as I could trust the coaching hire, I'll trust everything else to fall in line.
That's kind of where I'm at too with most of these. And I'm not picking on anybody because like Florida's defense, like Graham and some of those guys they got, Makai Boy-Rowe, some of these young players, you want those if you're whichever coach it ends. It could be Matt Campbell. I have no idea. You want talented players, but some of them are going to skedaddle before you even put your signature on paper. So it is what it is. So I think the first year, whatever UF gets, especially if they make a big swing for like the Marcus Freemans of the world, if they don't get them, whatever, doesn't matter who it is. That first year could be a little iffy. But you're looking at this from a long-term deal. And I can't say that's wrong because if you don't hire the right coach, you're probably not going to do well in the first year you're there because then a bunch of those, if you hire the wrong guy, a bunch of players are going to leave then. You're just pushing it down the road and the inevitable is still going to happen. To that, sounds like a lot of the recruits are probably going to stay, or at least, it's Florida. It's a little easier. I think the recruiting class, they'll lose maybe half of what they have right now at most. A lot of schools, it could be 2/3. Florida's a little easier to keep guys. We'll see which ones do. Like Will Griffin will stay. Williams, a few of those guys will stay. But let's see which ones out of state, the Dallas kids and stuff. Doubt it. But it is what it is. You're trying to get an elite coach. So with that, is there anything else about the Florida job that you think really needs to be discussed? I think we've kind of covered the parameters. We're only a few hours into this with him being fired. So last shot.
This is the best job that's open this cycle.
I agree.
This, no matter what other jobs that are considered reasonably opening this cycle, Florida State included, in my opinion, this is the best job in college football that's available. This is the best job in college football that's going to be available. Florida should be able to go into any coach that's willing to listen and be able to go get them. If Florida has Lane Kiffin at the top of their list, you should be able to go get Lane Kiffin. If they have Marcus Freeman at the top of their list, you should be able to go get Marcus Freeman. You're the University of Florida. If there's a coach that's willing, you should be able to go get them. They've already come out and said, hey, Billy Napier had more resources than any Florida Gators coach has ever had. And part of that's just because that's the time of college football now. Like, they need more resources. Florida's already come out and said, you will have even more resources this time. Like you will have all of the resources you need to succeed and thrive. Everybody looks at Lane Kiffin and is like, oh yeah, he never made the college football playoff. He's at Ole Miss using Ole Miss resources, and he's winning 10 games year in, year out. Let him get more Florida athletes and let him get those resources. Try us. That's the thing. Like, this is going to be the best job that's going to be open. No doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of, Florida can get it right. It's up to Florida at this point. Everyone is talking about this job right now. It's up to Florida to get it right.
I know what your thoughts are on Scott Strickland, so I'll leave that alone. But the only other job that I think could rival it, just hear me out. LSU has 2 losses right now, and they still have A&M, at Bama, and at Oklahoma. That's not going to go over well, and I don't think that result's going to go over well with their fan base. That would be the closest. LSU job's pretty good too. I'd rather have Florida, but I get it. That would be interesting. Could you imagine Kiffin at either one of those 2 jobs with what he could get? I mean,
I know a coach that is recently available that has ties to the state of Louisiana and has won conference championships in the state of Louisiana that might be willing to take a little bit of a discount.
Oh, God.
Just saying.
Okay. You're probably in danger if you ever walk into the state of Louisiana after that statement. But
isn't everybody in danger the moment they walk into that cesspool?
All right. Brandon, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Locked On Gators every single day. And I mean, at this point in the cycle, we might be there multiple times a day.
There you go, brother. It's very possible. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or anywhere else. We will see you soon.